always an interesting one, speaking with politicians, and trying to balance that out. So I think that's what Chamberlain was trying to do. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We do business for just about 30 minutes before we head back right there. And we may have to get back to Dangote. I know you did see Mr. Aliko Dangote there. It's a big day for Nigeria, big day for Nigerians, big day for energy security in the country as, of course, Dangote Refinery begins the production of PMS. Nigerians are very, very expectant, especially with the long queues we've had in major cities in the country for weeks now. It doesn't seem to be abating. Perhaps this is going to bring a sucker to that. Expectations and fingers crossed on that. But let's do business now, starting from the global space. Brent oil prices fell on Tuesday as sluggish economic growth in China, which is the world's biggest crude importer, increased worries about demand that overshadow the impact of the halt of production and exports from Libya. We keep our eyes on the number. We've noticed recently that WTI and Brent seem to be closing out. The difference, we normally would see Brent at about 80 and have WTI at about 70, but in the last couple of days, we've seen that gap closing up. For instance, when we see today, we see that Brent is $77.35. It lost 0.2%. But WTI, and this is what Dangote has been importing into the country because Nigeria hasn't been able to give him enough crude for production. So we see WTI increasing 0.7%, while it's a drop for Brent. This could mean that there's an increase of demand for WTI. I wonder if that's coming from Dangote. $74.05 a barrel. Look at the global causes of that. China's Purchasing Managers Index, that's the PMI, hit a 6-month low in August, and then the country reported new export orders in July that it fell for the very first time in 8 months. And new home prices grew in August. We know that the property sector, the real estate sector has been a major one and a major driver for sentiment in that country. Now in Libya, oil exports at major ports were halted on Monday and production curtailed across the country, continuing a standoff between rival political factions over the control of the central bank as well as oil revenue. We look at the Naira now and see appreciation on NAFEX it gained about 5 Naira. That's NAFEX, 0.33%. So it went from 1,602. That's what it opened with, closed at 1,597. NAFEM also gained yesterday about 0.8%. Went from 1,598.56 kobo to 1,085. 585 Naira, 77 kobo at the close of trade yesterday. That's an appreciation compared to the day before. We hope that is sustained. Now we move to the federal government. The Debt Management Office has opened subscription for its September 2024 federal government savings bonds. The offer includes a 2-year bond at 17.20% interest and a 3-year bond at 18.20% interest. Subscription. That's the highest and sounds like a good deal, for an investment opportunity. It's open in September, the second day in September, and will close September 6th. Bonds are priced at 1,000 Naira per unit with a minimum subscription of 5,000 Naira. The 18.2% interest rate for the 3-year bond is one of the highest recently offered, reflecting the current high interest rate climate in the country. So while it's good investment, of course, the question will also be, is it going to increase, or obviously it's going to increase the debts of the government, because these are monies that the government will eventually have to pay investors. Aviation now. The Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority has denied reports of a ban on Nigerian airlines by United States to operate into the United States. They say that Nigeria, like other countries, must satisfactorily pass the International Aviation Safety Assessment Program and attain Category 1 status. Upon attaining this status, Nigerian airlines would be permitted to operate Nigerian registered aircraft and dry leased foreign registered aircraft into the United States, and this is in line with existing bilateral air services agreement. In a statement signed by the Acting Director General of Civil Aviation, Captain Chris Najomo, the body explains that with effect from September 2022, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration delisted Category 1 countries who, after a 2-year period, had no indigenous operator provide service to the U.S. or carrying the airline code of a U.S. operator. Also, they removed from the Category 1 list, there were countries who the FAA was not providing technical assistance to based on identified areas of non-compliance to international standards for safety oversight. They go ahead to clarify that no Nigerian operator has provided service into the United States using a Nigerian registered aircraft within the last 2 years preceding September 2022. So it was expected that Nigeria would be delisted, as were other countries who fell within this category. Nigeria was therefore delisted since 2022 and was duly informed of this action in 2022. It is important to clarify here that the delisting of Nigeria has absolutely nothing to do with any safety or security deficiency in the oversight system. So I guess it was important to clarify that from the NCAA. Now, yesterday, we did speak to our correspondent, Juliana Olainka, who is in China. We know that the President Bola Tinubu, is there, along with a lot of state governors and high government officials. Now, this is coming from Kaduna State. The governor is also there. The Kaduna State government has signed a memorandum of understanding with Chinese tech firm on security. And the Kaduna State government signed a memorandum of understanding in Huawei Technologies office in Beijing, China, for the actualization of the smart city project that's going to happen in Kaduna State. You can see the governor there, Governor Obasani. He signed the agreement on behalf of the state, while the Chief Executive Officer of Huawei Technologies, Chris Lu, signed on behalf of the company at the ceremony, which was witnessed by President Bola Tinubu, ministers, and other senior government officials. According to a statement by Governor Obasani, the Smart City project is geared towards enhancing security, efficiency, and transparency in public service, as well as competitiveness, city management, and attracting talent and investment. He adds that the ultimate goal of the project is to establish a safer and smarter Kaduna State. You're welcome back to watching Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. Let's settle on that launch today, the beginning of PMS production in Dangote Refinery, which seems to be, the much anticipated, much waited for. We're still waiting for the Port Harcourt Refinery. They have promised that it will happen in September. So I guess if Dangote can fulfill its promise, then the government should be able to fulfill its own promise too, right? So we'll be counting down for Port Harcourt Refinery. But now let's settle on Dangote, since it's that's the focus for now. We have Dumebi Oluwole, Senior Analyst of Financial Derivatives Company. Dumebi, hi. Do I say congratulations to us, Nigeria? Hopefully, we're going to see a change in this, because a lot of filling stations, petrol stations, have not even been selling. Yes. Even the NNPCL, that were, just dry. I think since yesterday. But you still had some people, perhaps out of nowhere or nothing else to do, they were packed there. You still see long queues, even when they were not selling.
Yeah, I saw that this morning. It was very interesting to see. There were a lot of cars packed, and
the police station wasn't open.
Yeah.
So we certainly are looking forward to the day when, even if, you talk to a lot of Nigerians, I tell you, even if they have to pay more, let there be supply.
Yes.
And then I can know what to do with myself.
Yes, when you look at it from the consumer angle, you do understand why people right now are like, at least we're already paying more for it, so let it just be available. And when you put it in the context of the current consumer basket, you realize that people are already paying so much for every other thing that's a necessity. From electricity tariffs are very high now, and then you even consider the fact that most people are now put on ban A, whether you like it or not, and then food prices as well are still
but
quite
even
high.
Being on ban A, does that give you the assurance you're going to get at least 20 hours of...
now that I'm on ban A, I can say that to an extent. The electricity supply has been quite good, quite optimal compared to what it was before. Obviously, more is leaving my pocket, but to an extent, the supply that we're getting is I would say it's worth it, right? And then when you consider other people that are also receiving the same amount and not having to maybe buy so much fuel, you can understand where the trade-off is. But for other people that are not, experiencing and they have to move around, they have to commute to work, they consider food suppliers that have to get petrol to, bring food to the market, to the retail markets, then you understand why, even if on a household level, you might not be spending so much on fuel because you do have some level of electricity that's a bit stable. Because it is affecting other things in your consumer basket, it's having that detrimental impact. When you even look at the total labor productivity as well, you're commuting to work in the morning, or you're going to have to spend so much hours in traffic. Already part of your productivity that's supposed to give business output is already lost because you're spending so much in traffic. So there's a spillover effect from it.
So we'll talk to our correspondent, Olu Philippines, right there, and we hope to get more info. But wasn't it interesting that we woke up on it was Sunday evening, we got that statement from NNPC admitting, that they're actually owing. But I remember when this round of scarcity started and we had analysts say they're owing suppliers. Of course, they did deny it. So I wonder what pushed them to come out. I mean, is this a way of increasing NNPCL per liter?
I can't really say,
because they did say that it's supply costs.
Yes, but what we do know is we know what is causing it, and we now know that they've come clean. Right. So what exactly is causing these issues? We know that number one, a lot of our crude is being caught up in crude swap agreements, and that has forced the NNPC to also have to pay some of this monies as well. Then you look at the exchange rate devaluation and how that has impacted their cost of servicing the debts that they already incurred. Right. And when you look at these two things, you realize that it's not necessarily, apart from the fact that there's oil involved and then there is the nation involved, you consider the fact that what is going on with NNPC is not too far-fetched from what is happening with other companies in Nigeria. The exchange rate devaluation we've seen it from financial statements that have been released, right? Where I would like us to point our minds to with this particular situation is that with the NNPC coming clean, what this does is that it creates some level of transparency where they are.
Does it really?
I'm getting there. So the reason why I say that is because yes, we have a lot of analysts that have said that this is, and I think I was part of those analysts that said we do know that there's a huge level of debt with the NNPC, and they took a while to come out to admit it.
Maybe they were calculating the figures.
But the truth is now they have said it. So now we know where the problem is. This gives us an opportunity to analyze, dissect, and start solving the problem. That's where transparency with numbers.
What are the possible solutions to this? So already we have, refiners like Dangote having to import crude.
Yeah,
because a lot of our crude is still held up in paying
Exactly. So the only solution is to extract more crude, is to produce more crude. And what exactly is making us not produce enough crude? We know
oil theft and all of that. But maybe just hold your thoughts. We see Olu is there. Hi, Olu, can you hear me? We see.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I see you want to talk to Mr. Aliko Dangote. Please go ahead. We'll talk to you afterwards.
Okay, this is what it is. History has been made today from the days when this whole ground was all water and got to the sand filling stages, the piling stages, and tons of engineering and fabrication going on this land. And remember, at some point on this land, this was the biggest industrial construction site in the whole world, with over close to 200 cranes working simultaneously. Today, what I have in my hand is premium motor spirit coming out from the Dangote Refinery. History is being made today, and I'm standing with a man who incidentally has gone grey pursuing this dream, and I'm going to ask him how far he wants to travel after today's achievement. Alaji.
Thank you. Well, how far, there's no limit to how far, going to, as a human being, obviously we have ambitions, and I think our own is to make sure that we make our country and Africa proud. So the journey just started, and we'll continue, we'll start. The journey has just started today, you are right. Really, even 5-6 years ago, I don't really have gray hair, but right now it's history. But we thank God, at least we've been able to deliver. So I can say that, it's a golden gray hair, which I believe it is worth it. and I'm a very, very happy person today. I must thank really, our great team led by Ms. Edwin, for making this dream, possible. I must thank, also Mr. Alaki for giving that support to make sure that this.
And let me just interject and ask how much of support you're getting from the present government, and if President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has thrown his weight behind what you're doing here today.
Well, I'm coming to that, so, and also to thank, my family, not only because some of them, they work with me, but because they've gone through tough times, by not seeing me, by not spending time with them, for being very, very understanding, my own friends that are around. But most of my appreciation will go to, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his government for giving us all the support. People can have different perceptions, but without the support of the government, we will not be here. That's what I keep saying. And I want to put on record that I want to thank the governor of Lagos, because he has done a marvelous job by giving us all the support. 10 years ago, there was almost nothing here. But this is what you call a dream. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, then the governor of Lagos, dreamt about establishing this in about almost 18, 20 years ago. And nobody thought about coming here. Actually, my first time here was just to come and look at the land. This was 2015. I've never ever been to this area of Lagos. But you can see what a dream can actually do. So I must thank him, and I pray and hope his own dream that, we used to, push Lagos up the ladder. Okay, he will apply 10 times that, on which I know he's trying. He will apply 10 times that in the federal government's, operations.
Okay, let me just ask you quickly. This is PMS coming up from the Dangote Refinery. You did promise us, you did tell me severally when we've been visiting here in the last 7 to 8 years that when this happens, it's going to be Euro 5, which is the highest quality of PMS you can find around the world. Can I readily put this in my car and begin to run?
Yes, you can put it in your car and begin to run. And it will actually save your engine. It will give your engine the best performance. It will not be the normal one. And you can even see our diesel. Our diesel is very light. It's like water. So which people have never ever seen before. But that is what you call Euro 5 diesel. Our diesel now is about, is less than even 30 ppm, which is great. And we'll keep pushing. We'll get to 10 ppm.
Okay, so finally from me, I'm so excited to hold this, but it will be more interesting if we can drive this supply and distribution down into the countryside, down on the streets, into the cars, into the engines. I can see your gantry positions here, 177 tanks for storage, and beginning to wonder how soon can we have all these trucks crisscross the streets of Lagos and supply petrol and products.
Our gasoline can be, that is PMS, can be in filling stations in the next 48 hours, depending on NNPC.
Would you want to comment on pricing? How much would you sell per liter of this PMS?
On PMS, what I told you, it is an arrangement which was designed and approved by Federal Executive Council, led by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. As soon as it is finalized, which he is pushing, once we finish with NNPC, it can be today, it can be tomorrow, we are ready to roll into the market.
Thank you for obliging me this. You told me you were catching a flight. Still 10 minutes into your time. Let me allow you go to wherever you want to go to right now. Thank you very much for obliging us your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
So there you have it. This is what we're talking about.
So there you have it from the president himself, that those products should be in circulation in about 48 hours. of course, Nigerians will be counting down. But Olu Phillips did ask about the pricing there, and he said, I think there's an arrangement that the federal government is trying to do, because he said the Federal Executive Council, they're trying to work on something, and then we would get the price. But we're back here in the studio, Dumebi. I mean, I think the most important question that Olu asked there was, when can we expect this to hit town for people to be able to access it? I know they did say perhaps it's just the NNPC stations that will have it, but I mean, whichever way, although even now, let's have it, because even now it's the NNPC station that have been selling for a couple of days. So I guess the most important question there was, when can we expect this to start running in town? And he said about 48 hours.
Yeah, which is very good news. I mean, what this just tells us is that there will be, to an extent, an increase in supply of petrol across, especially at least starting off with even Lagos. We might likely see, this petrol scarcity start to, reduce in a couple of days and maybe weeks. Another thing to also consider, obviously, is the pricing. We obviously would expect that whatever arrangement that the FEC would have with Dangote would ensure that the price is cost reflective for him, and as well, maybe not too much or overbearing for Nigerians. Primarily, the goal here, I'm sure, for pricing would be to ensure that at least Dangote is able to make reasonable profits from all of the expenditure that he has made, considering the fact that a lot of the work that he's doing on the refinery was taking off with foreign currency loans. So
maybe I was expecting you to talk about subsidy, because already we know there's subsidies. So I don't think it should be about Dangote making its money. It would be more about how much subsidy the government will have to pay. Because I mean, already we have subsidy in existence. So
the reason why I didn't speak about that initially is because a lot of times it's good that we separate Dangote from what is happening with the subsidy regime in Nigeria, simply because this is a one-man business, right? And yes, he has, will I say, for lack of better, or someone like a patriotic role here to ensure that at least we're able to service, the local domestic demand, and then before beginning to export, which does make sense. Because there's huge markets for refined petroleum products here in Nigeria. But then again, you consider the fact that as a business on its own, it has to make profit, right? And then you look at what is happening with the subsidy regime in Nigeria and realize that we're supposed to have stopped paying subsidies, but we're still doing that. So even if that conversation is going to be had, what this has to be is a subsidy regime that doesn't, again, cut away too much from the profit that Dangote has to make, and as well keeps prices not too expensive for consumers.
All right, Dumebi, thank you so much. I'm sure this is a conversation that is just starting.
Exactly.
We're going to talk about all of that later. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for your time. I really have to rush over to the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of Chartered Institute of Directors of Nigeria. He's been waiting, Dr. Dele Alimi, but I'm sure he's also excited about this. Dr. Alimi, good morning. I know you're also excited about Dangote Petrol in circulation. I believe you are also looking forward to heading to a petrol station and having access to at least steady supply of petrol.
Of course, every Nigerian will be excited at this news. It's wonderful news, and like the president of the organization said, we look forward to having it in our various petrol stations in the next few days.
Yes, we're still talking to the CEO of Chartered Institute right here of Institute of Directors, and we're talking about the 70% windfall tax, which has now been signed into law. Dr. Alimi, obviously, because this is going to take out of your revenue or your profits or the bank's profit, it's not received pleasantly. But I guess we should also look at why this was proposed in the first place and perhaps try to balance out perspectives in this case.
Yes, you are quite right. Of course, it is a role and right of government to introduce tax where it deems necessary, especially where they feel a particular sector should contribute more to the development of the economy. The government has the right. And when you look at where we are now with our economy, the government, of course, is holding on to every opportunity to improve revenue generation. So you can't blame the government for doing it, but In that same instance, as we just affirm that government has the right, we must also look at ensuring that we also do not kill the goose that lays the golden egg. And that is what the Institute is saying here, that yes, as we hold on to every available opportunity, we must also look beyond the immediate gain and also look at the long-term effect on whatever policy that is in place on the sector. And we need to be extremely careful. You don't want to, on one hand, we are trying to attract investment to the country. One of the areas where investment can come in through is through the banking sector. We must not put in a policy that will discourage from investing. You must not put in a policy that will discourage that sector from lending into an economy that needs funding. So that is what we are saying. Every time we must try to balance the question, just like you said, and ensure that whatever policy we are putting in place is not one that will, at the end of the day,
All right, seems we have a break in the network now there with Dr. Alimi. Dr. Alimi was trying to say that perhaps the government... Dr. Alimi, are you back? Okay, do you want to conclude your thoughts, please?
Yes, I think I've completed. I just said, sorry, I think there is a little glitch. I said, at the end of the day, government must kind of balance its act to ensure that whatever we do that gives us gain in the short term should also be sustainable in the midterm and the long term for both government and the private sector.
So what would you rather, or how would you rather that the government handles this? We're just talking about the debts that the government owes. And obviously the government is looking for ways, to scratch out revenue, fund the budgets and some other infrastructure. So how would you suggest that the government handles this?
Yes, while I understand the position of government, and it's like, well, we are not drowning, but when a man is drowning, he holds on to everything that can possibly make him survive. But it is not everything that is holding on to that will make him survive. So what we're saying here is that government should look at that rate, 70%. I mean, well, let's look at, we are not the only country that has introduced this kind of law. What are the other countries doing? 1, 2, what is the prevailing business environment around the financial sector that would help banks to actually meet that obligation? Is it conducive? Government needs to look at that. So what we are saying is that it is not just enough to introduce this policy. It is also good enough to carry along that sector. You don't want to kill that sector because, of course, we want to provide revenue for government. It is important that that sector continues to be relevant and continues to play the role it is currently playing. So our proposal is that government should try and reduce that tax rate, even if it is a gradual thing, and if possible, introduce some kind of threshold that would because government could say, okay, if you make below this particular amount in terms of the windfall from forex deals, this tax may not apply to you. So that, because the banks are of different sizes and the volume of transaction differs. It's not even about the size of the bank, but the volume of the transaction. So government could look at that so that at the end of the day, we do not kill the banks in our effort to raise funds. And again, of course, this is the time that banks are recapitalizing. That also has effect on the bottom line of the bank. Banks are recapitalizing. You cannot, on one hand, tell them to raise funds. On the other hand, you are also pulling out the carpet from under their feet. So this is what we are saying. And there's also a need to also conduct an impact assessment. Okay, so you have said this tax will apply retroactively, which to us is a very wrong move. Banks at the moment, at least, have submitted their accounts. They have paid dividends based on some of the windfall they have had. Now we are saying we should go back and bring back that money. To me, any retroactive law is not right. Any retroactive law is not right. And we believe that government should ensure that whatever they are doing, they can also offer incentives such that some of that windfall, if the banks will use it for maybe financial inclusion, opening up new branches, opening up rural areas, it could be incentives. You will recall that one of the reasons why people are giving for lack of tax compliance is the fact that they do not believe in government's ability to use tax appropriately, which led to allowing some organizations to utilize the tax directly to fund some public sector projects. Is it possible that banks could also be given that opportunity such that they can apply what should come through this kind of taxation into public utilities and public infrastructure, that they can use the confidence of the private sector in government ability to use the tax appropriately.
All right, Dr. Alimi, we really have to stop there. Director General, Chief Executive Officer of Chartered Institute of Directors of Nigeria. We hear your suggestions, and of course, we're going to share this as many times as possible and see if we can get the ears of the government on this 70% banks windfall tax. Thank you so much for your time, and we wish you the best.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
All right, I have to thank my colleagues, Chamberlain, Ayo, and Kayla, for giving me some of your time this morning, but it's all for our good. I'm sure you also want to use Dangote Petrol at the end of the day. There's supply, there's energy security. We're happy. So let's head back now. We can do the market this morning. We'll do it at 1 p.m. during Business Incorporated. Intraday numbers will be coming your way with Aneti Edit, as well as other issues around the world of business. But now let's head back to the Sunrise Daily Studio.